Welcome to Non-Fungible Conversations with your host, Chef Dizzy.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Pascal. How you doing?
Checking. You can hear me?
Very well, thank you.
Fabulous. It's working.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we're just gonna give a minute here while we set up the room. If everybody wants to retweet this space, I'm gonna post it in the Discord and retweet it now. Really looking forward to this interview and AMA with Pascal. It's a real honor and privilege. So we're just gonna give it a little bit of time. Thanks everybody for joining us. Welcome everybody. This is our first live interview in AMA with Pascal Blanche. Thank you so much for joining us, Pascal. You're a legend. You've been in this art space for what, 30 years now, and I'm just wondering, could you tell us a little bit about the beginning of your career? When did you first
Yeah.
identify as an artist?
Right. So, hello, guys. So, where do we start? Yeah. Well, I'm 50 years old, two kids, married, living in Canada. I'm French. So, I'm born in the south of France, and I've learned I've been in art school in the south of France, in Marseille, for those who knows. And that was in the 90s. And then I started to work in the gaming industry a few years after that, around the 94, something like that, and never stopped since then. And it became I came to Canada in 2000, and I started to work for Ubisoft and I worked there for 15 years. So that's my whole career. Just put some bread on the table. And on the side, yes, there is this whole side of me that you guys know me more for. That is I'm digital artist, and I've been doing that since I don't know the 90s, something like that. I started maybe with Amiga, and it took me a long time to so I feel confident enough to start publishing stuff. So I think I started to publish on one of the first community that were out there on the web. At that time it was raf.com for those, raf.com for those who knows. And then it becomes, after that, we are the more a bigger communities from back then. And I've always been around, so that's why I think people know my work a lot. And also from my art formation, when I was in art school in France, I was not the painter. I was more like the sculptor artist, and doing more modeling stuff. And quickly I became very attracted by anything that was digital, and started already to do some 3D on Amiga, and then on PC. On Apple too, I worked on some first 3D Pro softwares. That whole attraction for 3D comes from stems from certainly the first movies like Star Wars, stuff like that. I'm a very big fan. When I was a kid, I was watching the Ray Harryhausen movies. So anything that was stop motion, things from Phil Tippett and Harryhausen, Star Wars, the Rancors, all those little creatures, creatures. I was loving doing that when I was a kid, just trying to recreate those puppets, and trying to just do some Super 8 small movies. And I discovered that 3D. So it was, amazing, because you had the whole studio just in front of your screen. Basically, you can animate, you can sculpt, you can do lighting. You don't have to struggle with the materials. It's everything is there. So we got into that. People don't know that much, but I was an animator when I was started doing working for the video game industry in '94, something like that. I was doing a first ever game I worked on. I was using an Amiga. I did some Muppets in clay, and I just did the whole animation in clay. And with that little prototype we put up with my friends in '94, we got the money to get a bigger game, but I had to go on 3ds Max, and it was not 3ds Max, it was 3D Studio. It was on DOS. So all along came my my love for 3D art, basically. because I never had the time to do full animations at home, and I would love to do that at some point, because I have always that kind of a backstory in my head when I'm doing my illustrations. So I do illustrations. It's faster for me to do because I get bored very fast. So after a few days, I want to go on another project, another illustration very fast. So basically, that's it. So by day, I'm art director in the video game industry. I've been doing that for 25 years now. And by night, I'm doing my own stuff, the thing you guys love. At Ubisoft, I worked as art director on franchise most of the time. So I worked on Myst Revelation. I worked on Naruto, Rise of Ninja. I worked on Avatar, the game of the movie. I worked also on one of the Far Cry licenses and many IPs that never came out. So that's frustrating because there were lots of potential there. But anyways, and now I left Ubisoft and I'm working at Behavior Studio, and it's quite a nice place.
Amazing, amazing. You're a man who sounds like you've done it all over the space of 25 years. It's really incredible. I wanna go back and hone in on a few things. First of all, I guess I'm curious. You were in French Fine Arts School, right? Very early on, and then you went right into video games. I mean, were you already interested in video games while you were in that school, or did somebody pick you? How did that transition happen?
Oh, it's a long story short. I was already very into digital art. In south of France and in France in general, there was that big attraction for 3D images and video effects. So anything that was around that, I was very interested in that when I was in art school. There was that show, kind of like the E3 of France for the 3D that was called Imagina, and it was just near my school, or like a few hours from my school. So I managed many times, many years to go there with some of my mates to just record and the conferences. And I saw many of those. At that time, it was more shows for like attractions, like virtual ride, stuff like that. And also I saw one of the first prototypes for a long movie based from Moebius Arzac, and it was amazing. And all those very, very old, like CG rides from the 90s and stuff like that, it was totally magical. So I was always attracted by that. And then you had, of course, the evolution of CG in the movies, like Terminator 2 and Toy Story came along, and that's all that. So yes, I was already very hooked by that, and I thought it was the thing I wanted to do for right from the beginning, even in art. So when I was in art school, obviously they were not teaching that. I was getting the basics, so drawing, painting, sculpting, architecture. We had also photography and video. And so I learned all those things, and also a lot of history of art. And that's an interesting story because I think I will always be grateful for those history of art lessons, because I had this teacher who was doing huge presentations in front of all the students, and he was always finishing his lessons with a little questionnaire, and he was just presenting to us, paintings from artists, and we had to just guess who was the artist who painted that. And we were all wrong all the time, because it was always Picabia doing Picasso, Picasso doing Picabia, and I learned a lot from that guy, who was always showing us how much the artists were influenced by others. So it kind of opened my mind on that. Lots of artists have always a lot of issues, getting influenced by other artists. There is that thing when you're young and you're an artist, and you think that everything needs to come from your head, basically, which is totally not true. So that teacher just teach us how to basically get inspired by those who came before that, and how you can just like take what you need, and just how you take that artist and you make something new with that, and that becomes your own voice basically. So that was very useful for me at that time.
Who are your biggest historical artistic inspirations? When you talk about art history, I mean, who are we really looking to as your heroes and your icons?
I'm more into anything that is science fiction and fantasy covers, and all those artists, Frazetta, Chris Foss, and people who knows me know what I'm talking about. And those artists were also inspired by the ones who came before. So I think my style and kind of the big flow from where my art, and basically also like where the art from video games comes from, is more like the romanticism, and like Klimt and all those who came before, like in that vein. So that's it.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I have a question from the Discord that I want to
Hmm.
jump to
Yeah,
real
yeah.
quick. They said, now that you're doing the art for a Game Master screen for the Mothership RPG, have you ever considered turning your original art, especially most recent ones, in a role-playing game setting similar to what Free League did with Simon Stalenhag's Tales of the Loop?
Well, my DMs are open, for those who want to do that. I've tried like many times to do that kind of stuff. It takes a lot of time. So that's a funny story, because it's I do that in video games all the time. Like I create worlds, but it's for franchise. It's my job. And when it comes to just surf and create something bigger on my art, I don't think I'm there yet. I would love to do that, but I think there is a lot more to explore first before I start to just do those things. But yeah, role-playing game, I was thinking about that for a long time. I think every winter my kids are just used to me. If just I just like take some white paper and I try to design a role-playing game for them, stuff like that, because I'm really like into game, and anything that is role-playing game. Never had the time to play with them, but like I had a few nights with friends.
Yeah, that's great. I played Dungeons and Dragons myself,
I did that,
so
yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's great. So, I mean, I guess then let me ask you. So, you say you make worlds kind of as your career, but you have so much art that it all does seem to be in the same world. It seems like kind of the Immortals series that you've been teasing a little
Yeah,
bit. That's all kind of in the same world. I mean, is this coming from some place in your mind that maybe you just haven't fleshed out enough yet, or can you talk a
totally.
little bit about that?
Yeah, but it's exactly that. It's like it became like more and more evident that it's not like it's something that comes out like a voluntary. It's more something, those influences from like artists from like heavy metal, metal hurlant, because I grew up with that when I was in France, like Moebius, Corben, Drouillet, all those guys did just like, just blew my mind when I was like a teenager. So it totally just, they got like a huge influence on my work. But those guys are like from like the 70s, right? So that's always been like my idea, is just to try to bring that back into the visuals from our times. We are in 2022, so I try to keep kind of a modernity into that, and just take what I want from those influence, and it became somehow like a part of my world. So that's a mix of 2D and 3D elements, and just create those worlds. So for a while, I keep having that kind of a thing in my head, that what I call the derelict planet, which is basically a place where I just put like all together all my monsters. Like you can have like riders and astronauts like in the same place on that derelict planet. So I don't know what they're doing there. I don't know what if there is like stories around this, but I see spaceships and dinos like coming along on that place. So I keep going to that place like most of the time when I try to figure out like a new series. So yeah, it's part of like a process, and it's still always like on the way of like on merging and exploring and pushing things. Immortals is the last one of the series going that way, and I had more that in my mind, that kind of idea of new gods and old gods fighting together, something against each other, something like that. So it became that series. I do a lot of series these days because I think that's more from my art direction experience. Where to me, it's not one design in particular that is good, but when a design becomes good, when we can start to have like declinations of it. So it's more trying to kind of find a recipe and experiment that recipe to see how far I can push it.
I love it. I love it. Thanks for that. Okay, so I have another question. Do you ever paint sculpt traditionally? If so, how often? And anything else related to this topic would be appreciated.
No, I don't. Like sometimes I do some sketches on the side. I know how to draw, but I'm not a good drawer. Thankfully for me, the CG came along because the most I did when I was a teenager was already kid bashing. Taking things together and merging them into something new instead of starting from scratch. I did some modeling, classic modelings and all, but it was frustrating because I never got the set of pieces I wanted or the details I wanted. I was not patient enough for that. So I was always coming back to just try to mold some pieces I liked to just go faster and put them together. Also, like in that aspect of modeling and mashing things together. There is also a lot of creativity that I like and I think very interesting. So yeah, no, anything that is like analogic, I don't have the time for to do that yet. But maybe I'll come back to that. Sometimes I always think of maybe just taking some time to just do that. I worked with the guys from like House of Gog who made amazing statues from my works, and I gave them my 3D models. But so it's kind of a more like 3D printing than doing a series using molds and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I like the idea of having statues, little statues or busts, stuff like that. But I would use 3D printing right now, not going back to real modeling.
Yeah, I mean, I love that all, you have all these 3D prints essentially available. I mean, can you want to talk a little bit about 3D printing and kind of your love for that technology? Or I mean, it's pretty cool.
Oh,
Do you use it a lot?
everything is is always like working together. Like again, it comes back from the role playing games. Those little sculptures we love to paint when we were kids. I had those too, and I always wanted to at some time create mine. But again, not time, not the technology to do that. So came along the 3D printers, and now they're like so fine. I have a few pieces at home there, just nearby me, and that it's crazy what you can do with that. So I had fun for a while to do just like a series of those little soldiers and astronauts, and you can just if you go in the link on my profile, there is one about that where you can just download the STLs and print them if you have like a good printer at home. I had one for a while, printer, but it was like so nasty, just like I was fed up to just try to repair it all the time. So it's taking that somewhere.
Awesome. I was looking into 3D printer last year to make my own minis because it always seems like I always need the minis that I don't have, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I was looking into a lot of different options, and yeah, at one point I was like, I should just 3D print whatever I need, for my sessions because yeah, very cool, very cool.
And it's magic because you in 3D you can do whatever pieces you want and stuff like that, and then you can just print them, and then there you go. They're like it's like it is getting better and better. Like I don't know, every 2 or 3 years you get a new printer coming on the market, and it's cheaper, it's faster, and it's a better resolution. So for sure, at certain point, I think I might come up with a new collection of pieces on my own, or work again with like House of Gog. We have like a few ideas to continue to do like busts and statues for to sell for fans.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, everybody, I just want to reset the room real quick. If you've been here the whole time, thank you so much. If you've just joined us, right now we're doing an interview with Pascal Blanche, the legend. I have I have a direct stream of questions coming in from the Discord that I've been reading off. I'm also kind of conducting a general interview. If you haven't already, please retweet the space. Make sure you raise your hand if you want to come up and ask Pascal a question in person. He's really nice. He doesn't yell or anything, so
I'm cool. I'm cool. I see some faces already. I know, like hi Wayne, hi Robbie, some artists I love. Nice to see you guys.
Yeah, please. So if anybody wants to come up, you're more than welcome to. So I want to jump right to a question that I have. It just came in. Sir Roger Bob says, I see a lot of retro styles in your artworks. Do you
Mhm.
often get your inspiration from real life objects, or are you more influenced by other artists and concept art?
Like retro styles I think it's more like again more cover artists and comics from the 70s 80s who are like my biggest influence. If there was maybe like one artist who was doing more that kind of real life objects, it was Richard Corbin, who passed away I think last year, and he was one of my gods basically because when I was watching his work and when I was a kid, I saw that he did like a few comics based on clay sculpts and stuff like that. So it was totally into what I said before about like me being fan of Ray Harryhausen and Phil Tippett and all that concept of uh, using real objects to insufflate them life too and create stories around. I did that when I was a teen with a friend just in his garage. We did a remake of Indiana Jones, I think. That was fun. But yeah, so back to Corbin. Corbin was one of the rare artists who was doing sculpts to get them like into photographies and then paint over. So it's a bit the kind of the process I'm doing also. So I do a lot of sculpting in my work, and then I just stage the light. I stage the shaders, and then after that, after the rendering, I go on Photoshop to just finalize and just turn it into more like something that is more 2D. So it's a long process, but now like my pipeline is like so. I know it's so well, so it takes me maybe 1 to 2 nights to just do a new illustration.
I see. And since we're kind of talking about your process
Mhm.
a little bit, this is
Yeah.
perfect time to go into this question. Are you using Blender for your creations? Do you have any guidelines for concept art mixing 3D?
Oh, no, I'm not using Blender. Blender. Most of my artists at work use it now. Even my older son is starting to learn it. I'm too old to just try to learn a new one. But I would love because I think Blender is amazing. It's like a jack of all trade. You can have like all the tools in there, and I like that. My tools are more 3ds Max because I have like lots of libraries and I have all my characters rigged there. So I always do like kind of a first kit bash and stage in 3ds Max, then I export everything in OBJ in ZBrush, where I do again like lots of kit bashing again on the top of that sculpting. And then my export is in KShot, so not using Blender.
Yeah, it was specifically he was asking about Blender, but also, do you have any guidelines for concept art
Oh
mixing
yeah,
3D?
yeah. When it comes to concept, I think it's like so. I'm putting my art director cap now on for concept. You can use Blender. You can use even like a ZBrush as long as you don't take too much time. For instance, I did a lot of concept art for Aquaman 1 and also like for Aquaman 2, and I was using ZBrush. So basically, the process I told you, I was doing that in one night. I was doing a few concepts using ZBrush, and then just doing a very fast rendering in KShot. And from there, I was just sending that to approval or just to change things. So yeah, you can use ZBrush for concepts, but you have also what's its name again? There is another one with Sketchfab, which is like quite good also for 3D and setting up very fast shapes for especially for environment. I think more and more when you see and when you watch the shows or the video games these days, more and more artists use concept artists use some elements 3Ds from whatever makes them like go fast, I guess.
Amazing, amazing. I'm wondering, can you tell us a little bit about some of the IPs that you've worked with over the years? I mean, have any been what's been the most fun project that you've worked on, or maybe like notable for you, like meaningful to you? Could you
Well,
could you tell us a little bit about that?
all of them were like very. I could just talk hours about those. All of them were like special in their way. Me, it was my first time as art director. I learned a lot on that one. I think the most fun was Naruto Rise of Ninja because I read a lot of mangas too, and in that time, it was in 2005. Naruto was very popular, very fun. So yeah, I was very happy to work with that, and it was very challenging because we wanted basically to reproduce like the whole city of Konoha and the whole like the whole lore of Naruto, and we did. So it was a fun experience because everybody on the team was going the same direction because we had basically a strong story. The gameplay was like also very, very strong, very very on the point to just mimic the way of the ninja basically. And also which one after that? And then the one I was very proud to work on was James Cameron Avatar, the game, because well basically I got to meet the guy, so I was geeking out. I went there. I met James Cameron a few times, and it was also very, very, very fun to work with because they were very like open to just even give us the ZBrush of the creatures they were doing, stuff like that. So it was very back and forth also. Like we did a few designs they kept for the movie, so it was fun.
It sounds like a ton of fun.
Oh yeah.
I'm just impressed every time you mention another thing that you worked on. You know, it's you've kind of been everywhere. It's ironic. There's a question in the chat that says, "Has any video game influenced your art?" And I think it's ironic considering you've made so much video game art. But yeah, has any has any video game particularly strongly influenced you? Could you say? I know you started even as early back as the early '90s. So
Yeah, I know. Well, maybe yeah, but it's very old games, more than the games. It was more of the Psygnosis at that time, like in the 90s. You have like the Amiga games from Psygnosis were doing Amiga games, and they had those super cool now, like super cheesy intros. They are even the ones who invented the concept of intros for the games, and they had those also like amazing covers from like Roger Dean, who is like a huge legend, and he did those covers for the Yes band and the Psygnosis covers. And I was buying the games just for the covers basically, and it was like a huge inspiration, and it was always like a big drag because it's like in those old comics, and you have like an amazing cover, and inside it's crappy. Yeah, it was it was a bit that too, like the games were not that good. So I never like had like a lot of influence from video games. I love video games. I play when I can, but don't really like have like anything that just like gave me the envy to just create that world. What I like in video games is the idea of more than movies is that possibility to be like interacting with your own world. So all those games like I don't know, the Last Zelda or Shadow of the Colossus, all those more exploring games. I'm more into that. Anything that is exploring with a bit of RPG elements, stuff like that. I'm very into it. Right now, the game I'm playing with these days is Below from like Capybara, and I love the ambience. It's very minimalist, and it's gorgeous.
Okay, Pascal, I'm wondering, can you walk us through your process of creation from the beginning? Let's say you are making something for yourself, or you're making something
Yep.
for a client, right? And you're starting fresh. You haven't committed anything, any ideas to paper or to your computer. Where do you start? And can you just take us through a little bit, step by step, your process from the beginning to the finished product?
The process is different when I work for client from when I work for myself. It's almost
Well,
like I gotta say like
what?
I change cap.
Why don't we focus on when you create art for yourself then?
Yep.
For
Okay.
today.
So the process before that is there is a lot of thinking. Basically, is I don't start with just like, oh, I'm going to do a design and voila, I'm going to go there. So no, I'm going to read a lot. So these days I'm more again into Lord of the Ring. I read a lot. I walk a lot because I get lots of inspiration while walking. You know, some people are having their ideas like under the shower. Me, it's the walking, and I try to find uh, more an angle. You know, when I want to create something, it has to be something that is nagging in the back of my head. You know, what's the new illustration, what's the new theme I want to figure out. So it's a lot of thinking before just starting to commit. And sometimes what triggers like the theme, I would say, or the idea is a title or an action, or maybe like I don't know, like a specific painting or something like that. But even there, I do lots of Pinterest research where I create kind of a folder where I put everything that kind of goes where I want. For instance, for the Immortals, I started to put there some elements from Bisley, from Mignola, because I wanted to do something that was more about having kind of an action scene with a fight between a hero and something else. So I started with that idea. And then I tried to put a title. I always play with that is I need a label, I need a name. And with that, it just starts to crystallize, I would say. And from there, I'm still not sure either if it's going to be like science fiction or more medieval or stuff like that. I don't care about that. I'm more thinking about the composition first. So second stage, when I kind of know kind of the series where I want to go, because I can see and foresee a few variations very fast. You know, it feels like there is like some room to explore more ideas. Like for instance, the shards I did, I got started this last weeks. It was that idea of like some obvious illustrations from Moebius when it all starts with that kind of a floating shard in the air. I was like, okay, I like where that just like calls like in sense of inspiration and just like the story behind that. So I was maybe like on those series, maybe now like the first idea is very like close to the source, but then I start to explore more and just to add like new elements, and I let it go basically. I just don't think too much of the next one. I know it's going to go somewhere, and for now, like I don't know where the next one is going to go, but what I know is like it's going to have like a shard in it, a crystal, and that little character I designed for a while for like two or three nights where I like the look of it, and maybe it's going to evolve or maybe it's going to have like a companion very soon maybe, and it's that no it's like I think about like a journey or like an exploration. That's how I did also those few years ago, the one with the little astronauts on the red planet, for instance, where I just let it just like go like where I kind of wanted to go. And the fun thing is when I work on the first picture, I'm maybe like halfway through the picture where I start to have like the idea for the second one, and that's how I just get started.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that detailed explanation. Right now, we're talking about shards. Yeah, and it's an amazing piece, very catching. And
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, is this in the same, I guess, universe as Immortals?
Exactly. It could be like on my derelict planet. It could be like a part of it for sure. Yeah, yeah, exactly. They could just cross path, and I don't know what they're going to do. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Very cool. And since we were just talking about Immortals a few minutes ago, I was wondering, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about this series that's springing up. Immortals has this, almost, I guess, feminine figure. She's got a big sword or a big, gruesome weapon most of the time. Very techno-punk, cyberpunk, dystopian feels to it. And it's the you can see it on the art station, Immortals 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pascal, tell us a little bit.
For this one, it was been a while. I came to a moment in my career where when I look back at the work I made, sometimes I remember like some specific illustrations that I made back then, and I think, oh, that was a cool one. Maybe I should just like like continue a bit of that, because before I don't know, I started to do series. I don't know, for the last 2 or 3 years, but before that I was more doing standalone pictures, and all the time I got like people saying like, oh, is there more? But that one is, we want to learn his or her story. So I think if you go very below in the art session, there is one who is called like Sentinel. And Sentinel was the one that I did, and it was also like on the cover of my second art book. And I like this one a lot, and people were asking question of that one, where it came from, and all. So it became kind of the starting point where I wanted to wonder where that character is going to go, and what I could just add on the top of that. So I started there, and I had that pose I liked. I just reused for like some of the variations for the Immortals, but I wanted to push that more. So what I like in my work too is to basically take two worlds and create a third one by clashing them together. So there is a bit of sense of something that is old, that is more fantasy and science fiction. And because I never like to just like choose one, pick one or the other, sometimes I like to clash them together. So it becomes those kind of a post-apocalyptic kind of a warriors figure. And I also had that kind of idea of or maybe they're like like supernatural being and super powerful, and they just cannot I don't know, they can fight things like bigger than life, bigger than themselves, like. And maybe it was more like the last Marvel Eternals was just like just a bit in the back of my head too. I like that idea of like those guys were timeless, and not afraid to just fight like big monsters. So I was more thinking about that, and I started to play with that. So one was more about that pose I did like a few years ago. One over was more about the clashing between kind of a monster you get always like in the out of the frame, and the main character is just jumping into the action. And the third one is more like an idea of a metaphor about something I do in my work a lot, which is that because I take my inspiration from other artists that came before me. So it's basically my character sitting on the head of the giant. You have the expression, I think, like sitting on the shoulders or standing on the shoulders of giants, which is basically giving credits to the ones who came before. So it was a bit like that kind of a little nod I liked to put in those illustrations too. And also like on the technicity of that, what I wanted to do is something a little more illustrative, even more push that a little more. So I used a lot of halftone patterns and stuff like that, just like emphasis the look of something that comes from like a cover for the 70s. So if you go on Discord, and we can maybe like setting up that later, like this month or something like that. But I can do a screen share or a stream just to show you the process I do when I do like Photoshop rework of my works, because I have like a few ones coming up. So maybe for those who are interested to see more my process instead of doing listening to my crappy English, they could just sit there and see how I work. Because I did that a few years ago, and people like that, and I like to just share like how I work too. That's something I like to do.
Yeah, that's right. So in the Discord, Pascal is often screen sharing. So if anybody wants to, watch him work, he's we're
Around
trying
that time, yeah, around that
Yeah.
time, basically, it's always around like 10 p.m. or something like that. Maybe we could just set up on Discord kind of a thing where I just say, yes, tonight I'm going to do a stream. So just for the ones who wants to hang around there, I could do that for those who are
Yeah,
interested.
absolutely. And I can help you set that up. Make sure we get the announcements out.
Excellent.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so tons of questions. First of all, I just want to say before we move on that, looking at just your art station, your use of color, the style, the texture, the variety of images, I'm just blown away. I'm so in love. It's like Jesus, it's just so cool, man.
That kind of a thing, like my colors, for instance, which is always something that comes up in the comments on my work. People are just like really loving my colors and asking where they come from, and and it's like it's funny because when I started in art school, I was so bad at colors, doing working on acrylics and stuff like that. But again, came along anything from metal hurlant, heavy metal covers, and whatnot, and it started to just influence my work a big time, and I was always amazed to see that not so that many artists use those palettes and those like colorful shadows and those very very bright yellows and stuff, those colors like this. I never like push that the way I wanted. I was always kind of always wondering why it was like so tame, and so when I became like confident enough and bold enough, I started to push that. So depending on my mood, sometimes I try some things a little more darker, like I did for the Lovecraft series, or for my Pixies, I went with I think that's the boldest colors I ever tried, with like that big bright red as a contrast with the super dark and green and blues and mechanical things. So it becomes kind of a clash of montage of things that are like too complex for the eyes to see, and this big red there. I like that. I think that some artists did that back then, and I really like that kind of. It's almost like when I see that, looking back, I think there is a lot of influence from Katsuhiro Otomo, the guy who did Akira, and also Philippe Drouillet, who is one of the fathers of Metal Hurlant, the French heavy metal, was using those very big clashing colors like that. So I always come back to kind of that tone, and it became somehow my trademark. But to be frank, that's I never really controlled that. It's kind of a go. I go along with what the colors tell me to do. Basically, it's not really like on purpose. Like even for the big circle in the back, sometimes I feel that it needs to be there. Sometimes I feel it doesn't need to be there. So that's it.
How about the textures? You told us about the colors. How are you getting these textures on your art? For
Yeah.
instance, the spaceships and the mechs and
So that I like to experiment a lot. For instance, for the spaceships, if you guys are on my art station, if you check the one who is called Angelfish, the big white and red spaceship, a triangle spaceship with a big yellow planet in the back. So this one, I kind of it was the first time I wanted to do something that was more very like science fiction, and with those aspect and looks you find in the Star Wars universe, where they have that kind of a gribble technique, which is already kit bashing basically. And I was wondering how I was going to achieve that, and I could just show you guys that on ZBrush, but I kind of found a correct balance and a little trick to get that kind of a quality of a gribbling and surface detail, and it's deceptively simple when you know how I do that. For instance, the ship, maybe it took me, I don't know, like half an hour, 20 minutes to do the details, because it's more like stamping alphas, and using also after that the pressure of the alphas, because I just embed that into the mesh, kind of have those selections where I can just push that back, and basically I paint in all the little corners and stuff like that, elements, the kind of a dark gray, and that creates that kind of that feel of like a super high detailed thing, and it's not. So it's more stamping.
I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's unique. It's distinct. I think everybody really appreciates it. And since we're talking about spaceships, so you kind of have two different types of art. Well, I'm sure you have more than that, but you kind of have your figures, and then you
Yeah.
have the spaceships, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk about the spaceships a little bit, what they mean to you, and also like, do you have a preference? Which one is more fun for you? Which one do you enjoy more? Like kind of fantasizing about, imagining.
So I think it's good for an artist to have like a few chords where you can just play coming from one style to another or one theme to another. And for a long time, I was more into characters and never really like environment. And I do environment when I'm art director. Never that too much of like anything that is vehicle related or stuff like that. So I did that a bit for a while, but then I started to I don't know. It's just like I woke up in the morning and I say, yeah, today I'm going to try to do a spaceship because I love spaceships. So let's make some spaceships, even if I never made those, and even if it's not something I'm known for. So I thought it was worth like trying that kind of exercise to just reproduce more the Chris Stone or the John Harris kind of a style of spaceships I wanted to do. Again, it's like when you watch, even in video games, when you watch what's coming along, it's always the same thing, So I wanted to do my bright, colorful spaceships I loved and give them like a kind of a new age angle, like so that came from there. And I'm still experimenting, but the spaceship thing is like it comes back and forth. So sometimes I'm very into it. Sometimes I get back to my characters. And also, when I was working at Ubisoft, can't tell a lot about that, but there was an IP back then, and who was about spaceships, and I was working on it. I was the art director, and that game never came out. It's been announced in a way a few years back, and it was like canned. So and I worked a lot on spaceships back then. So maybe it comes from that. Also, like the frustration to have like nothing coming out from maybe 4 years of work. So I needed to do spaceships for me.
It's absolutely fantastic. So I'm sorry, did you say which one you kind of have more fun doing?
Both. Both. I think it's both. Both is good. Like anything I do, like by night is just to me my way to just have fun, basically. So I would not do art if I didn't like to do what I like. Is the question could go also for my series about Lovecraft. Well, why doing Lovecraft? Why? I read Lovecraft, the Lovecraft universe when I was like a kid, and I still read those. So I kind of it came along to me that it's been a long time I wanted to do that. So the heck, let's give it a try, and I had a lot of fun with that too. It's like now I'm just feeling more free to just to just take a theme, even if it's one I never really like did, or what a theme that is not maybe like totally like in line with my derelict planet universe, and just give it a try. For instance, I did like the Space Cadet, where I wanted to do like pay an homage, the guy with the astronaut with all the pins in the back. And this one became very famous, and it was also like some kind of a wish to do something that I never do, which is more like a fan art, and I had a lot of fun doing that one too.
Awesome. Okay, everybody. First of all, thank you all for being with us this entire time. We've been going for about an hour now. I think we can keep going for a good 20 minutes or so longer, as long as Pascal's good with us. There's a couple more questions I want to get through in the Discord, and then again, so far nobody's raised their hand to come up here and talk to you in person, Pascal. I'm a little offended. I'm starting to get offended. So if at the end here, I think it would be great if anybody wants to come up and just say anything in person. It's a great opportunity. Seize the moment. Seize the moment. You never know when it's going to come again. Although I think we'll be doing more of these. So, okay. So Feder wanted to ask. He would love to know if you have a collaboration in the works with Guillermo del Toro or any other filmmakers. He feels like you have an amazing opportunity to world build in a Ralph McQuarrie way. you know what that means.
That's yeah, I see that. It's the artist behind all the Star Wars designs for sure. So yeah, I'm very flattered, but no, it never really happened, and maybe it's going to happen one day, but I think it takes more time, and it takes more, even more some solid universe to just like attract that kind of those kind of people. I worked for them. I worked for Aquaman 1 and 2. But that's it. Like I never, so I did. So I made some design for the movie, and it was like a pure fun. But working on things that are like specific to my work, not yet. Maybe it's going to come, maybe not. And as for Guillermo del Toro, he's following me, and he's a great guy. So I sent him one of my statues because I'm a big fan.
Yeah, of course, of course. Somebody else asked, are there any other artists, I guess, that you feel like people should be paying more attention to? Present day modern artists?
Well, I've like it's funny because I always like looking back more at the kind of the 70s and 80s guys from like back then. Those ones I think they need more paying attention to, because I see that as an artist. I see that also as an art director in video games, and you see that also in movies, when sometimes there is kind of a big lack of inspiration or a big lack of curiosity for the one who came before, and all the amazing work they did, and that is like an amazing source of inspiration. And sometimes it's frustrating to see that there is not more of that, like I think, for instance, Raf Malkari, like those guys. But if you go back to the question, there's plenty of guys I love. I know, well, like amazing artists. I could just, give them like a shout. That there is a, like I don't know, like a Sparf. There is a Anthony Jones, Guillaume Minuel. I love him. Do Fresh, who's an amazing guy who does amazing rendering of spaceships. Paul Shelleyson, everybody knows him. Like Jeff Jan Burage. I worked with him also, like on that video game who never came out, and we did amazing works. Like if you basically go again on my ArtStation and see the likes I have, like there is a huge list of artists that I just like their work there. It's more like my reference pool, and there is a bit of everything there. So if you are interested to see some contemporary artist, I don't know what other name. I don't know. Piotr Jablonski, for instance. That's an amazing concept artist who worked on the Destiny concepts. François Leroy, I love that guy too. He goes by the name Friendly Robot, and he does amazing sceneries, even animated ones. So I really like that kind of style.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a great list. We definitely, I'm going to check all those out, especially when I look back on the recording. So Sir Roger Bob also wanted to know, how important is your post work in Photoshop, and when did you start using it on your renders the way you are right now?
I think I started from the beginning. So the first render I did, because back then I was not very happy with the renders I had, like on 3D Studio. So I started to do a bit of post process and boosting colors like right away, and it became more and more a habit to enhance my work through Photoshop. And the more I worked with Photoshop, the more I found new recipes and new ways to basically improve my work. So it's more now, I would say, I don't know, it's maybe 65% is the rendering and the rest is Photoshop. It's I rework a lot of the colors, and since I'm using Photoshop, Kshot, since I've been using that software, I'm using all the passes. I could just again show you that, guys, on Discord one day. I'm using all the rendering passes you can just extract from one rendering. So you have the ambient occlusion, you have the normal maps, you have like different kind of the speculars, all of those, and like we work in the movies industry, where you just extract everything separately to just compose that after that as a final picture. That's what I do on Photoshop. And for instance, maybe one of the only artists around I know that is using the normal maps in Photoshop, because I use that as more as a way to separate some elements in my picture. I use like an angle with the normal map. I can extract that and then just paint basically light using that normal map in Photoshop.
Awesome. Great answer. Thank you for that. Tyso, welcome up to the stage. Did you have a question for Pascal?
I really didn't have a question. I just really wanted to say, Pascal, I want to thank you for being such an inspiration. I've been following you for years and years, and I kind of had to stop doing the 3D graphic things for a long time, so I'm just like completely out of it. But I mean, you're still a huge inspiration to me, and thank you so much for sharing your art with us, especially over all this time and everything like that. And I'm sorry, I'm just a tad bit nervous here because I'm such a huge fan, and so I appreciate this opportunity to have this, or to tell you that, because a lot of times we don't get to meet our fellow artists or anything like that. And yeah, so I'm just going to stop there because I'll just keep doing the same thing. Again, thank you so much for everything you've done. You're a big inspiration. Please keep making art.
Oh, I will. Like I keep on like doing that more and more. Like I become more efficient with that. I had like a big boost these last years, and I keep up, surfing on that.
Yeah, no, it's really I mean, all the different things I've seen in the magazines. It's just from the first day I saw your work to today, I'm always amazed of the stuff that you do, and it's just so thank you so much.
When was that? When did you start to see my work?
Jeez, I mean, I probably was in 3D World magazine back before.
Oh my God!
Back. I know that you got a cover image, and it was I was the one with the two. I think you did an homage to a Franzetta painting or something like that with the two.
That one, yeah.
No, and that one to me, yeah. I wanted to create something like that. I never did, but I wanted to create something like that. But I mean, to me, that was, yeah, just the lighting and all the different things that go into it. It's just, I mean, it's just, I'm sorry, I can't really say anything more than just, I really love your stuff. It's really amazing, really inspirational. And so thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So when I hear that, I say I did my job, because I think that one of the first thing I want is like basically is just carry on the torch basically, and all my inspirations, like what you're saying, I got the same thing from the big monsters from back then, Frazetta, Mobius, and all.
Yeah.
And I think that they just started to kind of fade in the past and stuff like that. And I was like, well, that visual, that kind of energy, that kind of a passion, it has to continue, like, so I wanted to carry on the torch basically. So here is just like it's job done for me, but I'm not done yet. I want to do more.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming up, Tyso. And if anybody else wants to come up here and tell Pascal what a big fan they are, or you know what I mean, like, this is the time. No, I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
I see Wayne and I see Robbie. Hi guys. I don't know if you can just talk, but it's nice to see. Also, like, great artists, you have to follow them. It's amazing. I'm just checking who's around there. But yeah, no, I really like that kind of format. That's very nice. But what I was doing back then too is I was streaming, and I liked to also like share my work, and also like I had a few nights where I was sharing basically inspiration, just going through the folders and talking about the great artists I liked and stuff like that. So maybe we could do that on Discord. But the only thing on Discord I don't get is I'm trying to get some music in the background, and I have no idea how to do that. So we need to work on that.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, sorry, I haven't been able to figure that one out for you yet.
No worries.
Okay, I got one more question from Sir Roger Bob. We'll see if anybody else wants to come up. I'll just shoot an invite to Robbie and Wayne just to see if they want to say anything. And then, okay, so Sir Roger Bob said, has the current pandemic affected your more recent artworks, or are the artworks detached from all of what's happening at the moment?
Well, it affects me like many people, like in a way that, for instance, I'm working from home. So the big change came from there, where I realized that I could work from home, and I could do like a lot more because I don't have to go back and forth at home, and I have more time for my family. So it means also like I have more time for myself. And so yeah, that's why you can see a big peak in my work is because I get more like time to just find some time to work for me and just organize my life. So my life is a little less around my on a job and less tired basically. So gives me more time to think about like side things. And so it's yeah, it's been a positive change for me. But I can't wait also to just go back to work with to see my mate because it's I like to separate things a bit more in my work. So like everybody else, I guess. So yeah, that's it. And I think I hope it's going to be the last year, so we can just go back to a normal state. But maybe after that, I'm going to maybe keep 1 day or two from home to just like kind of keep that kind of a breathing area where I can just like find more time for myself.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I want to welcome up Robbie Trevino and
Hey,
Wayne.
Robbie.
Yeah, hey, welcome, boys.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Hi,
Pascal,
finally, I can
Robbie?
hear you. Yep.
Just a quick question. After all your years of experience, what's one of the most pervasive myths or untruth that young artists seem to carry around?
Well, the one I was talking about earlier on is like lots of young artists think it is bad to take inspiration from like others. So, and I think it's so not true. It's like it's the opposite basically. All the good artists just are just riding on the shoulders of the artists before, and when you go back down, you can just kind of track down like all a line of like artists like from back in the ages, and that's what I learned in art school with my history teacher. So yeah, that's basically the one and only thing. And also it's funny because lots of those young artists think, yeah, you should not do that because like just taking inspiration from another artist, you're losing yourself and stuff like that. But it's not true. It's like it's again it's the opposite. It's you find yourself in someone else's work, and then you start to question your what makes you like that why that kind of a artist or that style just makes you like why do you like this one and not this one, and you start to answer those questions, and you're going to say, oh, by the way, it's maybe that specific element in that artist that I like, and somehow by doing that you start to process what your art is going to be about, and it's super important to have like a good like art education. So I would say that like read a lot, go to the movies, go to the art museums, and read a lot of books. Like I have like a huge library of art books and books and stuff like that. Music also is a huge inspiration. Anything that just kind of trigger your imagination is good. Like taking from one artist, yes, it's a ripoff. It's not good. But when you start to take from like 1, 2, 3, or 4 artists and you combine them like into something that is new, that's basically your own creation.
Yeah, I tell my students, yeah, all that is exactly right. I tell my students all the time, I mean, you can take a composition from one artist, the lighting from another artist,
Exactly.
Subject matter from another one,
And I love that one. I love that one.
Color choices from the 5th artist, and so on, and it just goes on. And next thing you know, because it's all filtering through, your being, whoever you are, that filtration system of your mind, your heart.
Yeah.
It all goes through that first. So people think, oh, if I take inspiration from that guy, that's not me. It's not true. It is you, because you've already chosen it. It's come through your filter.
Exactly.
first.
And then
you know?
you start to question that filter. Is like, why do I like this work more than this one? Like, oh, because it reminds me of like kind of something that happened to me like in my past, or like it's related to you in a way. It connects to you. So the more you understand those connections, the more you're able also maybe to just like to communicate those connections to like the others. Like, and just like say, I want to talk about that because I think that's something that is just like defines me, or like I want to talk about, or things like that. So it's always that.
One of the things I also have said to my students is that if you're in a car trip with your parents when you're a kid and you're in the back of the car and you're driving for hours and hours through the countryside, what are you looking at outside? What are you thinking of? What grabs your attention as you're driving apart? Do you look at animals? Are you looking at the trees? Do you look at the landscape? Do you look at the light on the landscape? What are you thinking about? Or do you have your head in a comic book? Whatever it is, you're trapped. But what's drawing your attention in those moments? As a kid, and that's a bit of a key to some of that where you're going to go for the rest of your life. It's that sensibility you have.
Totally, and we have all our different sensibilities because like my like the landscapes are from like my year in France. Yours are like the kangaroos, or my kids are it's the snow because we're like Montreal now.
Right.
And it's just like it's all those kind of different kind of experience that everybody is different, and everybody that have like that kind of you're right. Environment is very super important too.
Or it's the opposite. Like me, I love snow, but we don't get enough of it here in Australia. So I really love that sort of environment. I'm just enough of the desert, man.
Well, we have enough of snow there. I guarantee you.
Yeah,
way too much.
I'm sure.
What time is it on your side, by the way?
It's 2:15 in the afternoon.
Oh yeah, it's cool.
I'm in the middle of work.
And you're painting?
No, I'm working on Star Trek.
Oh, that's cool. Lovely.
Just casually working on Star Trek.
No, Wayne is an amazing artist working for the industry for a long time. It's the first time we talk by phone basically, but we've been in touch for a long time. Yeah.
Check his work. Man. I'm not sure when the first time I ever saw your work. It's like the blue sky. It's always been there.
Yep.
I really don't know when I saw your work for the very first time. No idea. It's just you've always been there, as far as I'm aware. It
feels like it sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, no, really. You're like a tick on a dog's ass, mate. You just can't get rid of you.
I think I started to publish my work really, my first publishings are from like 98. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I remember seeing, because I started, I was using Photoshop back in 92. That's when I first started using it. And I remember seeing Craig Mullen's work in a magazine.
Oh, yeah.
It was prior to Craig Mullins has a certain look and a style.
Yeah.
But there was one piece, because that was the first time I'd ever seen this guy, I'd ever heard of him, and he was doing some stuff for matte painting for a TV show.
Yeah.
And it was very different to what he became known for. But I first saw this guy named Craig Mullins in a magazine. I was like, oh, wow, this guy's using Photoshop. Cool. In the film industry. And that was one of the strong impetus for me to actually really go down that path while I was learning it. And so, yeah, man, it's probably soon after that, I probably saw your work as well.
Yeah, maybe a bit later on. Yeah. But Craig Mullins, I don't know what happened to the guy. He's been like such like a legend like back then.
Oh, he's like Eddie Murphy on the beach of the the tropical island at the end of Trading Places. He was. I remember when I finished working on The Fifth Element.
Yeah.
And one of my mates went over to Hawaii to work on Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Actually, a couple of friends of mine went over to work on that, and Craig Mullins was also hired on that project, and he was doing a whole bunch of
I recall
really
he was doing
stuff.
the domes. Yeah, I remember he was doing the glass domes and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it was all really loose apparently, and he was working 3 days a week. He just said, "I'm only going to work 3 days a week. The other 2 days I'm surfing or whatever." But my friend had to tighten up. He had to repaint and tighten up all his work because the producers were like, "What is this?" we can't. We don't know what he's painted here. When the other guys are going, we know what it is. Don't worry. They're like, okay, well, can you repaint it for us so we know what the hell we're looking at?
Excellent.
So yeah, man, he's sitting pretty. Don't worry.
Okay, good for him.
And Robbie Trevino, hey, welcome.
Hey, yeah, no, it's awesome to be here, everyone.
Hey.
I was like, oh man, these two are having the conversation I wanted to have. So like, I feel like we've covered basically everything at this point. But yeah, no, I mean, just to like echo what you were saying, the whole like finding yourself and like not being misled by trends, like what you perceive as like is successful, like what will get you work. Like at the end of the day, right? I think we've like Wayne, Pascal, me, we've done the whole like industry thing long enough. Some longer than others, but we've done it long enough. We've worked around enough people to know like eventually, like at a point, people want to change, and 9 times out of 10, it's because they're just not happy where they're at. Like they're in a place that they inevitably we're gonna leave, and it's so much of it is because it's like they became an artist they weren't really supposed to be, and honestly, like it's a difficult place to get out of when you essentially have responsibilities, and you need to succeed financially, you need to provide. But fortunately, like I know for myself, like I broke away from like sort of being, I don't want to like say like just another like profile in ArtStation, right? But like there is like a certain homogenization in a way to like some of the work you might see, and like I definitely fell into that like 6-ish years ago, and then I just decided like I'm just gonna do the stuff that interests me. And then thinking back to
you need to get to that point at a certain moment where you're like, fuck it. I had that kind of almost the same realization at certain points. I love my job, but it became more and more like a job. And after that, there is also like working in big studios, you have like a huge element of politics and stuff like that, where the fun is less there. So that's why I moved like into like a smaller studio, but where I get all the fun back now. But apart from that, it's just you start to just. I just started to just work by night just for my own sanity, because I needed to have a place where I could just do like blue girls with big boobs if I wanted to, or like spaceships if I wanted to, or just like warriors, or like kick-ass girl warriors or stuff like that, without like having like any kind of a having to justify, or just like just do the thing I needed to do to just like let it just out of the system, and just it became like kind of like my bubble of sanity. And then working became less stressful, because whenever I needed to just like to evade my mind, I could just go back to that place basically. So it became kind of a over the years my kind of a go-to when I needed the you can tell almost like when I was having fun in the production, my work as an artist was just like slowing down. And the more the work was stressful, the more I was working on by night to just release the bad energy, the bad vibes, and just like go back to that fun place basically. So I can just find like the energy back when I was going back to work, just go to go through the days. So it's almost like it's something vital for artists, I think.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you bring that up, because I know, I got a lot of the work that a lot of people want to get, myself included. And then it wasn't until I basically had that fuck it moment, followed by like immediate, fear or like uncertainty, feelings of uncertainty, right? Like I don't, this isn't a look that appeals to trends. Like I don't think I'm marketable, but I also don't want to hate my life. So I'm just going to do this with no guarantee that it'll pay me. And then the weirdest thing happened. All the clients that I never thought I would get, like the IPs that I would never work on, or musicians I never thought I'd cross paths with, all of them liked the genuine me more than the thing I was trying to be. And like that ended up opening up a million more doors than I ever would have thought was possible. But I had to say fuck it and jump first. And that was
exactly
something that I won't say most people, but a lot of people, they never do it. And
no.
Yeah,
it takes
hard.
it takes discipline. Yeah, it's like it takes discipline. You have to say, like, sometimes you don't want to, but yes, you're going to work like to basically I do. I work like everybody by day, but by night it may be I take maybe four nights a week, something like that. I keep a few ones where I just take a book, watch a movie, do that kind of stuff. But most of the time, I start to work at around like 10 by night, and I finish around like midnight or a little more. And I keep on doing that kind of a slow, like pacing, but it's regular. It has to be regular, and it has to be. It takes a bit more like a discipline. Sometimes you don't have energy for that, or the couch is calling you. But no, you go there and you finish what you wanted to do. Most of the time, the couch is calling you when it's not going well on the outside because you're not there yet. You're not happy, so you have to push it a bit more.
It's kind of like, finally, like whether you're getting invited out for friends and you're literally on the couch and you'll have a good time, but you're like, you don't want to, you just, or like, you should be at the gym, and like the first 5 minutes are going to be awful. But then, if you just, like, when you get into the rhythm or the flow state, as it's called, suddenly it's, it's just a reflexive. It's just second nature.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because my older boy is starting to go into 3D, to like new generation of artists, and he's actually just discovering, like, he has a lot of fun doing his little like tutorials and 3D moments where he just like he feels relaxed, and it's almost like sometimes better than just playing 3 hours like in a video game. Like he feels like he could do that more. Yeah, you'll see. It's like it's good to have like other things to do, like just like I don't know. In life, I like the idea of like having something you created from your own hands. There is kind of a satisfaction for that. Maybe you're going to find your public, maybe not, but at least what you did, you're happy with that, and it's like it's worth a lot.
I mean, isn't that literally the whole point of this? Like, why did you choose to do this? It's like, I mean, yes, from a commercial aspect, like you need to make money, and like, there is that.
You need exposure.
Really, yeah, but really, like, you got into art for art. If you really wanted to just make money, there's a million other things you could do that would probably guarantee you more success financially. Like, you do it because you love it. That's why you do it.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. The amount of times when I was like really young and like really fresh to all this, and like I'm talking about like having the clients that it's like one time I had a client literally it took 3 years to get paid, which is like fucking crazy, right? But like that's where I was at, like at the beginning, like you got to start somewhere, and like there were times where I definitely questioned as I was trying to make the whole art thing work. Like, is this where I just like, do I just pack it up and work at McDonald's or something? Was this like the worst decision ever? I could have chosen anything else, right? Like, you think about how much work you put into something. Like, if I was, say, like a lawyer, right? And like I worked as hard as I have the last 3 years, despite not getting paid, like I'd be the most successful lawyer in my state, art it's this weird different thing where it's like it's the creative opportunities you get are usually they're comprised of like a much smaller, more hand selected team of people, especially if we're talking, because I'm talking to some concept artists here, right? Like concept artists, illustrators, like it's our network, our industry of professionals is not nearly as large as the products that we work on that are like sent out to the people that consume them, right? Like it's small, it's incestuous. A lot of us know each other. A lot of us end up working together. Like I don't know. There's not as many opportunities as there are people looking for them. So it's a struggle. But when you get in and you start getting it done, oh my God, is it rewarding?
Yeah, it's funny because you said that, because it became like very, very weird to me since, I don't know, it started maybe 10 years ago when I started to see, like the end credits and say, hey, I know this guy. Hey, I know this guy. And the more it goes, the more I'm like, damn, I'm starting to just know the whole industry. And before that, before that time, watching those guys, I was watching, like You see Phil Tippett, you see all those guys are like, man, how do you get there? Like, who are those guys? Like, and how it was like so far away from me when I was like from France and stuff like that. But those things takes time, and it's funny because right now we are basically there. Most of the names of the concept artists I see are seriously maybe, I don't know, one out of five. I know them personally, so it's so funny.
It's funny too, because like then there are the, like, you'll see like, a cool video or movie or whatever, and you look at the credits and you go like, I remember when this person who is like, I don't know, 10 years younger than me was like asking me like, how do I like do any of this, and now they're like more successful than I was. It's just not that I'm like super old or anything, but it's just
they're your student. There's your student or stuff like that. It's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Life's that's why you should always be cool to work with, because you just never know, right? Like, I mean, who wants to work with a pain in the ass anyway? But also, like, you never know. Like that person who's your junior might end up being your art director or something one day. You never know. It's interesting.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you one place that does not happen, and that is the kitchen. Usually chefs are assholes because they do not have to fear that kind of thing at all.
Are you literally a chef?
I am. Yeah, absolutely. Although these days I do more NFT crypto stuff.
Dude, I mean, culinary art is art, man. I love food too. My like plan B, and I'm not joking when I say this, because I love to cook and bake. Like my plan B has always been like, open a food truck if art doesn't work. Like, and I'm not even joking when I say that.
you would have the sickest wrap on your food truck.
I could be in the kitchen too. I do the food too.
It's amazing. It's amazing, really. I love a huge foodie. That's awesome. You're an actual chef. I wasn't sure if you were or not, but I see you everywhere. And
I appreciate that. I mean, it is fun. Unfortunately, when you're working commercially, the stress takes some of the joy of the artistry out of it. But one of the most fun things I did was when I was doing private aircraft catering. I made these they were just like fruit, meat and cheese, and like raw vegetable trays. But I sliced them all so perfectly, and then I would arrange them. I would essentially they would all lay on top of each other in like arcs. And I would fill the palette with colors. Anyway, it was so fun playing with all the different colors of food, and you guys feel it, but also
creativity everywhere. Exactly.
I mean, you I think about I have a perfect crossover or cross pollination explanation here, like something that Pascal mentioned earlier, which was sort of the character builder of choosing your perfect artist or your aesthetic, right? Like, I'll take his brush economy and his line work, and that person's color palette. In a similar way, right? You're building dishes, whether it's presentation or a variety of spices and flavoring, it's combinations of certain things to create other things. It's just another outlet for creativity. It's something that you taste rather than. Well, I guess you do see it, right? If it's a well-plated dish, but
there's the visual component, without a doubt, but also the flavor component is a type of color. It's kind of like paint, and that was a big realization I had when I had the privilege. I worked for bullshit kitchens for years and years and years until finally I met an amazing chef, Ken Wallace, who had classical French training. He'd worked at the Fat Duck in London, and he opened up a fine dining place here in Philadelphia. And I came in. I was only qualified to pour soup in shot glasses. Okay, I was like the lowest man on the totem pole, but I worked the hardest, and I became his protege, and he taught me everything I know. Even to this day, I've met many people who call themselves chef afterwards, and they knew far less than Ken did. So. But anyway, he taught me all about color and flavor and putting it together and the artistry behind it. And it is amazing. But unfortunately, with food, no matter how beautiful it is, at the end of the day, it all turns to shit, as they say. So that's why it doesn't quite last.
I gotta ask then, like, when's your generative, like, food-based airdrop happening? And I mean,
I
like,
mean,
real food. It's like
I've
coming, right? Like drones or something are gonna
I've
drop it.
thought about it, man. I've definitely thought about it. There's a lot of different ways you could go about it.
It
But
will happen some way.
Well, I will eat the shit out of it if it ever happens. But if not, it is what it is. No, if
right
I'm
on,
ever in
right on.
Philadelphia, I'll check it out. Like, maybe we should hook up or something because I've never been there, and I love food. So,
Oh, it's a great city. It's a great city. There's a lot of great food here. I'd be so pleased if anybody ever came to visit. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we've been going for about an hour and a half. I'd actually like to propose while Robbie and Wayne are here. I talked to Pascal on the back channels.
Yep.
I'd love to do a group spaces intentionally with the three of you. We could just have a moderated artist discussion,
Totally.
kind of build it up. I think it would be a ton
I'm
of
in.
fun.
I'm in.
We can talk about art and food and all together.
Yes, we can
Absolutely.
talk about anything.
Yeah. With pleasure.
Okay. Awesome. Well, there it is, everybody. We are going to have a part 2 to this segment. I want to thank everybody so much for joining us. It's been a blast. We heard all about Pascal's career. We heard a lot about art. We got surprised with Robbie Trevino and Wayne Haig, and we're going to have a part 2 where we really dig deep into the trio here of honestly legends. I mean, I'm sure Tyso's probably been squealing on the other side of this speaker for the past 30 minutes. I've kind of laughed and thinking about it. But Pascal, if you have any closing words for us, I'd like you to offer them now, and then or Wayne and Robbie, and then Pascal, and then we'll close out. And thank you everybody for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot for being around, guys, and I appreciate the format. That was the first time I ever did that. Thanks, Michael, for just like hosting that, because I would have never did that without you. So it's very, very thank you for that. And don't forget to go on Discord to follow up my work. I'm going to stream more next in the upcoming months and stuff like that. For those who want to know more about my techniques, and we can, I can just start to stream and talk art all day anyway. So don't get me started there. But if you want, to have questions of things like that, don't hesitate to reach out on Discord. I will be more happy to help you guys. So thanks, Robbie. Thanks, Wayne. And
welcome.
I'm looking forward to talk with you guys. I say hi to Ginger, who is around. I see her. That was a blast. Thanks again, Michael, and thanks, guys.
All right, take care, everybody. Thank you again.
Thank you for listening to Non-Fungible Conversations. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.